welcome to the Eros Show. Tonight we have the cast from I Shall Be Liberated. We also are going to discuss topics about sexuality in the Black church, how liberation has taken place for these individuals as they have embarked upon the Systematics of Theology course with Dr. Poulan Kwok. It has been an exciting semester, and we are glad to welcome Deborah Fortune and Brandeis Tellis, and I'll be your temporary host, Abigail Douglas. Come on out, girls. Let's have a conversation today. I see you looking beautiful, amazing, wonderful. So tell me, what have you all been up to since the video? What's been going on?
Just taking in all the buzz and the good vibes we have received from our classmates, and just getting through the course, feeling liberated to really take in all the new information.
Yeah. Deborah, tell me, I Shall Be Liberated. You were Eros. Talk to me about that.
Oh, it was a good production, challenging.
Yeah.
And also the realities of it, as well as trying to portray a particular character that I myself was not familiar with. Had to dig deep to find what Eros truly meant for me.
Right.
And I'm one who's a realist, so if it's not real, if it's not there, I don't know how to fake it.
Yeah.
But that role really did something, liberated me in different places in my life that I thought that I would probably find liberation in different avenues, not through actually doing this production.
Okay. Sexuality. Talk to me. Tell me about it. I Shall Be Liberated. Come on.
I think that role because I think it's something we all need to talk about. Being in the age I am at 40, I think being able to embrace identity. I learned that sexuality to me is identity from the readings, and more people need to embrace themselves, their bodies, their identity. So sexuality is something I definitely wanted to portray.
Okay. So what happened? What transformed inside of you in the process of becoming sexuality?
I believe it was a beginning of some healing for myself. Just being raised not to talk about sexuality, not really have a conversation, or being raised in a family about my body and how to fully love it and know it for myself. I think it's important to portray, and I'm glad that we had an opportunity to put it on its feet and talk about it realness, especially we don't talk about it in church, and it's one place, the most important place we need to talk about it, because there's a lot of repressed things that have happened to people that happen with their sexuality, and they need to talk about it so they can be liberated as well.
Yeah. So continuing in the same dialogue, I want to invite Deborah to speak to me about, as it relates to the character you portrayed in I Shall Be Liberated, what did you learn by embodying the essence of Eros? What did you get?
I got a lot.
Okay.
Have I processed all that I've learned?
Yeah.
No, and all for good reasons, because it was so much, and there is baby steps that I have to take, because I'm dismantling different ideas.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've gotten about the character I played, Eros, is that Eros is not just confined to the bedroom, or even though it's always accompanied with sexuality, but it's free. It's in the cooking, it's in the painting, it's in the conversation. It can even be in the way we express our love, and even in the most innocent ways, as form of a smile, a hug, or what have you. So for me, I had to learn, and I took that Eros is in everything. It's the passion, it's the life force that I bring to everything I do.
Yeah.
And it is up to me if I'm going to continue to live in that element. So I've taken that now, applying that to everything.
Yeah.
It's a task within itself, but it's baby steps, and I am taking baby steps towards it. Like, for instance, this morning when I made breakfast, it's not the regular oatmeal. I was like, no, today we're gonna have toast, we're gonna have grits, we're gonna have eggs. I play some jazz music, I pop a bottle of wine in the morning, made some mimosa. So all that, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. You know, that was my erotic moment
Yes,
for the morning.
Yes, and I think that was one of the things that we had to go through, just in understanding Eros. Eros is not the pornographic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the pornographic.
not
I think that was a major takeaway. Is understanding the concept that erotic is not pornographic, sexuality is not pornographic, Eros is not pornographic.
It's not.
Right, and so, but to come to this place, I heard you say you were embodying it and you're still embodying it. So how do you plan on getting that freedom? How do you plan on getting to that place where Eros is in you and it's just what you do?
Just like the play, I had to dig deep.
Yeah.
I think I've shared this with you all once upon a time. I had to go find a place where I could find Eros. And for me, Eros has to be pure, right?
Yeah.
And the purest part of my life where I can remember is me being naive and willing and embracing that. And once I allowed myself to be there, and it wasn't in my adulthood, it was my childhood.
Yeah.
So I had to find a little girl in me that was so naive and ready to believe that love is love, everything is blue, everything is green if you say so. So if you told me Eros is pure in passion, I had to find that naivete in me and embrace it. And it's in embracing it and believing it. I was touched by Eros, but Eros was also touched by me. And then I was able to embody that character in a way that I can honestly believe it. And it's not to convince the audience that, hey, I'm acting, but that's what we're supposed to do. But no, this is becoming a new me, and I'm believing that I can be Eros into the subtle, into the overt things in life.
Wow, that's amazing. And as I listen, I'm thinking about the very part of where I saw you guys and it said you all just begin to tell the church to touch.
Yeah.
To touch. And so, what does that touch look like? What does touching look like to you all?
I think it's just the freeness of being who they are.
Yeah.
In all their imperfections, and all their blemishes.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to learn that church is not perfect. God is perfect, but not the church. So we
Right.
have to be able to reach out and be able to touch everyone, even ourselves, in those blemishes and in those dark spots, so we can talk about it. We can't keep hiding it. We always covering stuff up.
Yeah.
As long as we uncover it and touch it, that's where the healing starts.
Yeah. So, and I want to ask you a question, Deborah, because I know you sat in a session with your pastor and he was teaching from the pulpit about sex. So how was there any touch in there? was there a concept of touch?
It was a concept, but
Yeah.
you know, it's still a church. You know, you got to keep it PG-13.
Yeah.
So, I think the most can we touch was the fornication, premarital sex, and the desire. It was more so about the desire to want to be touched and want to be held, and what does that look like? And of course, everything was to the Bible. And even though he did step out, you know, to say, you know, people do it, but we're wanting to come along with God on this.
Okay.
I think it went pretty well. A lot of people were just a little afraid.
Okay.
But I think that was the best place that the church can be touched, starting with a conversation.
Okay.
And in hopes that that does perpetuate a good idea that, hey, these conversations needs to continue to happen. I think that's the healthy way before we can be walking in that space of Eros and sexuality.
Do we feel like the church will get there? Will the church ever not be afraid of sex?
I don't think they're afraid of sex because they're doing it. They're bold enough to do it, but I
bold
think
enough to do it behind closed doors.
yeah, bold. Yes, true.
Yeah.
Bold enough, or if you're married, you know, you're
Yeah.
licensed to.
Yeah.
You know, I think I say no because it's so much history.
It's so
behind-
Augustine.
Yes. Oh my God.
It's so Augustine.
So Paul, so Augustine. Yes, it is. But
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
with small conversations like what my pastor's doing, and if we're willing to go into the community of the church, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. But I have to be real. There are churches that will not hear this
Yeah.
and be accepted to it. So to say the church in its entirety, no. But will there certain aspects of the church that can be liberated and be willing to have this conversation and see that through? Yes, absolutely.
And so, Brandeis, we speaking of liberation, let's now move on and move on to what does liberation of your black body look like in this patriarchal Caucasian society? Yes.
My black body looks like this now, accepting all my curves, rolls, dents, dimples. I believe if I fully embrace myself, I can show others how to do that as well, and unapologetically. Because we always getting beat down and labeled, and it has to be like this. You have to be this size, you be this weight, this height, and it's very damaging to a person's spirit and their image. So if I fully embrace my body, I can knock out those labels and help others to do the same.
Now, you have created a beautiful piece for us today. Yes, we have Wholeness, created by Brandeis Tellis in the building for us. This is Wholeness. And we walk us through this process of you creating this work of art, and then wholeness, even the meaning behind wholeness. Walk us through that.
I went to a painting session, and the prompts was like, how do you imagine the body in wholeness? How do you embody wholeness?
Yeah.
So I started thinking about butterfly or something of beauty and something of nature and creation. But what came to my mind is my body. And there's been parts of my body I did not love over the years, like my behind, my hips, my thighs. So I made a commitment to myself to fully embrace myself and start living that in my everyday life. So I started drawing this, and I did my backside with my hips and stuff because those were the parts that I hated.
Wow.
So that's why I put the heart, so I can start fully loving every part of me. That's why the marks are not perfect, the straight lines. I made a little dip for the roll in my arms and little rolls in my curves of my sides because I'm not perfect, but I have to love every inch of myself. So that's what I came out to be, this painting.
So what inspirational words would you give to someone who is going through that negative aspect of not accepting body, especially black bodies?
We had Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas talking about that our bodies are in trouble and they are dying, and that we have so much trauma in life that our bodies are taking it on, and there's society killing our bodies. So we have to embrace it. We have to tell our narratives and not be afraid to tell our narratives about our bodies. We only have one. Right. And who else will take care of it and love it without us? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I fully ask someone to love me if I can't fully love myself? So I think this is important work for everybody to just really take a look at their bodies, all the dips and the curves and the rolls, and love it, because God created this body and it still functions in its fullness, and we just have to look at it and embrace it as well.
So I found it interesting that the heart is on the back, and so it almost looks like you don't know the beginning from the front from the back. And like, I know that's the back because it's the behind, but the heart is usually found on the front. So just explain that concept of the placement of the heart and how it's shaped and just in everything.
I made the notion to put the heart in the back because the back part of myself I didn't fully love. So now facing that, I put this painting out there on the canvas. Why not love it? So it's like a mirror of the things I try to shun away or I was ashamed of. And now that I accept it, I want to start loving it and beat it, put it in my face. So that's why I put the heart in the back, so I can start fully loving and embracing behind myself.
So completing this piece, would you say that it was a part of the completing of you walking into wholeness?
Yes. This was definitely another step of healing because, again, I've been dealing in my life with my body and my body image, and I wasn't raised in my family like love your body, because even my grandma dealt with weight and doing different weight programs, and she even had surgery on herself in the beginning in the 70s, and she was all, and from that she was not well. And so I definitely want to break that generational curse of that as well, because it runs deep in my family. Like, we never really love our bodies, so I want to be that first person, and I want to do that for myself, because I know I have work to do for the Lord. So this is my first step.
So, Deborah, how does, hearing all of what Brandeis has given about the background to this piece, how does that speak to you and your body?
I mean, I agree with Brandeis.
Yeah.
Growing up, it's a lot. It's layers that you have to unpack before you can actually accept who you are and what your body looks like. You know, and society has a way of showing you what they think is perfect.
Yes.
And society puts this pressure for you to live up to this standard, or this is what the standards look like, so you need to arrive at this. And negating that everybody's not built the same, everybody does not look the same.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to turn society off and look at the mirror and say, this is who you are. You know, for me, my heart, her heart is in her back. Mine will be on my stomach, because that's the area. It's accepting the things that we don't necessarily love and like about ourselves. So when I look at her picture, it speaks to me in a sense saying, love what you hate most, or love the things that you fearful most of yourself. Is accepting that. And in that, it would be my belly, because I have stretch marks. I was small at one point. I've gained so much weight. I lost it and gained it back. So it created stretch marks. But these stretch marks tell stories of what I've overcome, what I had to do. And in this part of my stretch mark and loving myself, it's going to say how I loved it. You know, I still put up a button, all that, clear it out. But I can be in a better, more comfortable place to say I love what I hated the most about it.
I think I would put my heart on my stomach as well. And I think that's because society has told you so much that you can't have a stomach. You're not supposed to have a stomach. It's supposed to be this flat. You're supposed to have abs, and I've started back working out now, and I'm in the gym doing abs every day. But it is, but when I walk by the mirror, I stand to the side and I'm like, how much of my stomach is left in, and it's so amazing. It's scary just how much you go through in order to create the body in a way in which the magazine, which airbrush people left and right, have told you that you need to look like. And so it is, that is the place. And I think also, just genetically, I get waxed. Like, I have to get waxed because just who I am hereditarily. And so having hair removal and all that, it's just like there's so much that you go through to have this concept of what society has told you what's beautiful. And so to be in that place of embracing and having that grace, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate you opening up and allowing us to place our hearts in a place that we hadn't even conceived that we would need to place in. So I want to ask, like, what is your freedom? What is currently your freedom?
If I can think about freedom, I'll think about being spiritually naked. Like, just be open. Like, we've been covered up so much, and like, even like I talk about labels, like we just been categorized and put in a box and stuff. Like, to be open and naked. Like the beginning, Adam and Eve was naked, and until their eyes were open, they covered up, and it was downhill from there. Like, naked is this unashamed, open, just to have the freedom to just touch, see, get all our senses fully engaged, and not to be covered up. So I think that would be true freedom for me, just to be spiritually naked.
I think similar to Brandeis, but that also physically naked. I think we hide so much and we cover up, we hide behind the masks, but I do think there is this pureness. It's just the purity of it, you know, being naked and being comfortable in the nakedness, unashamed.
Yeah.
To the, you know, to the point that I could answer the door nakedly and being comfortable and saying, hey, but not inviting any sexuality, any sex or desires. It's just, I'm just in my element and I want to be free. I mean, I think I started at home, you know, just walk around the house naked because I'm at home and don't nobody live with me, so I should be free. But I'm always conscious of, let me go put some socks on, let me go put something on. But I think there's a way that we can be free. My freedom is just to be in every aspect without any restraint. That, for me, that's freedom, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, just to be.
So, and as I hear you about the freedom and being in your house, how do you feel of being I know you're Haitian descent, but primarily African descent, and there are still African cultures who are liberating the body, where they are, the custom is not clothing. The women are out exposed. There may be something that covers the bottom area. How do you feel that Western culture can experience that and allow for that to be a freedom of speech?
I'm reminded when you say that, the only insert that comes to mind is Erykah Badu. She had a video, a music video years ago, where she did a naked part of it and walked the streets of Houston naked, and oh my God, she received so much backlash for that.
Yeah.
She spoke. She didn't have to open up her mouth, but her body spoke.
Yeah.
But then here again, backlash, like you did something wrong. And for me, I internalized like I can't be free. I can't speak. My body can't speak for me. Only my mouth can. But I can't be, if I want to be free and roam free. You know, I'm jealous that my African brothers and sisters can walk free and there's no punishment, there's no consequence, there's no backlash. But here is, to be naked is a sin. But we were born naked into the world.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and even when we die, they cover us.
Yeah.
Let me go how I came.
My God.
Naked. So
Yeah.
so it's just that pain that I can't. Even if I want to, I will suffer consequence for just being naked. There's a law if you go out naked. That what is it, nudity or anything? You'll get charged or get fined. So I can't be me because I will have to pay a fine. So
Wow.
I think there's a problem with that. But when we go to different places who are free,
Has the body not paid enough?
Seems like not.
I think they want us to pay more.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Bernice, how do you feel? I mean, of having more of our cultural shape and embracing that, and how do you feel that you have to cover, or how has your clothing stigmatized you?
It's just, it will be interesting to go back in history on how this became to be.
Yeah.
Like, I remember studying one time about the Victorian era, like women's ankles were too sexy, and that was indecent. Like, they were corseted up, they were covered up, but their ankles had to be covered because that was just showing too much sex, and it was just like, why?
Yeah.
And it would just, for the society to stigmatize us with these clothings and stuff, like what they're afraid of. It seems like they're putting these new labels and these clothes on us because they're afraid to talk about some stuff. And they're afraid of nakedness for some reason, and why that is against the law. Like, so I think you mentioned before, like, we have freedom of speech. Why can't we have freedom of being naked? Like, our bodies should speak for ourselves. But again, I think society is too afraid to talk about what's uncovered. They put too much laws on it from some reason. And I think there's a fear of being naked or being, free in our bodies, and there's a problem with that.
I just had this radical thought. Could it be the fact that clothes are a profit and it boosts the economy because you have to buy it?
Yeah.
And I mean, because if nobody is wearing clothes, then that's another product where you have major consumerism.
True.
So could it be the fact that part of it is that it's now part of consumption?
Yeah, capitalistic.
Yeah.
Wait, so of the world, unfortunately. And just even bringing that up, like if we stop wearing clothes, what would happen?
Right. What could you do?
What could you do?
So, I mean, are we gonna be mass incarcerated for not wearing clothes? No clothing's a new drug.
Right.
So, and if I would think, just to tap into the conversation of what my freedom is, initially my thoughts were so closed because I was thinking my words are my freedom. But then it's like, well, words are great, but is that the only place where you can be free is on a paper? Because what if the words don't reach anybody? What if they're just written in your journal never to escape? So I am in a place of searching for my freedom, and trying to figure out what that looks like. But the Lord, you prepared a piece for us today that may be able to help me get there.
Hopefully.
Yes, please.
So I want to be free, and I really can't be. Because everything around me tells me that I should be locked in. But I first can't be free because I haven't set myself free. I mean, I'm bound by what I told myself, or I held on to traditions and customs and places and things that I had no business to hold on to. But it wasn't my fault because growing up, this is what they gave me. But I want to be free. I want to be free where these chains that look like bracelets don't hold me, and I don't think they're jewelry, but I realize they are not the ones to liberate me. But I choose to be free. But that's a choice that I have to make, but I don't know how to make it because nobody ever wrote the rules and rubric of how to be free. They just say be free, but how do I let go when society say put your clothes on? How do I let go when the church say you a woman, sit down? But how do I let go when men or whoever might be interested in me won't let me kiss, but they choose for me to kiss and pursue, and I just want to be loved and held and be pursued too? But how do I be free when I'm just trying to figure out what is the norm, what is reality, what's real, what's not, who am I, what I love? Sexuality said know yourself first, love yourself, but Eros said find passion and find life force in all that you do. Together you can be free, but it's still me. I feel like in a straight jacket, wanting to go, but all the walls is white, no colors to say this is what it should be. But I choose to be free, but I'm still trying to figure out what does that mean. I choose to be liberated, mind, body, soul, spirit, and emotion, but I find myself bound because somebody touched inappropriately. I still feel bound because someone said I couldn't see. I still feel bound because someone said I'm too dark. I feel bound because they said your gap is too big. I still feel bound because your hair's not straight enough. I still feel bound because your eyes are not blue. I still feel bound because you're too big. Fit a little size, be a little small, but I'm not eating to be small, but I'm fasting, I'm praying where you are, God. How am I to be free? Where does my freedom come from? Where does my liberation come from? Where are the keys to my liberty? So I guess I have to figure out what is this light that I'm seeking for, and where is this freedom going to come from me? So in the meantime, I'll sit here and ponder and think as I try to figure out what Eros look like with sexuality in me. So I will be intimacy into me, and I will see who I am to be. And maybe I'll take these keys and unlock these bracelets that looks like chains to be free. Thank you.
Nobody gave a rubric of freedom. And so if we could draw our minds together, what would our rubric be to give someone on finding freedom?
I think I'm learning that it starts with you.
Okay.
Loving yourself. I know it sounds so cliche, but if you don't love yourself, who will?
Yeah.
And in loving yourself, you realize there's certain things I will not tolerate anymore. And in loving yourself, you know that freedom is not something that you want. You owe yourself.
Yeah.
I owe myself to be free. This is the debt to myself, and I got to pay this debt out. So freedom starts with loving yourself and accepting yourself. And from that point on, I think that's the bar.
Okay.
And I think that's the first thing on the rubric, loving yourself.
If I would come after that, I would say think for yourself.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
because
good.
so often we're told how to think, what to think, when to think, and why you should think that way. And you're penalized
Yeah, you are.
when you don't do it.
Yes.
And I think that was one of the major takeaways from experiencing this class with Dr. Kwok, was that it pushed you to no longer perform, but you had to think, and you had to be creative. You had to draw out of your own being and then produce. And so I would, if I had my second point, is to piggyback off of the first one, it would literally be experiencing the ability to think original thoughts, not the influence, not the subliminal messages that have come and that have attached itself and caused you to think, but literally being okay with that original thought that may not look like anything else that you've seen. It's okay for you to have it and go in that way. And and I think Dr. Kwok said it in one of the classes, is that it's no longer the commentary, but establishing your own right about what you're thinking from your own voice. So that's my second.
I think the third point would be for me is to accept it. Loving it and thinking for yourself, but after, if you fully accept those things, you don't have to reach out for something else or try to maybe if it's like this, fully accepting what you have, your original thought. You don't have to search for anything else, because I think that's what a lot of people do. It's like, I got it, but maybe there's a comparison thing. But when the acceptance piece comes together, you don't have to compare. And I think that's what's a detriment to a lot of folks, that we're comparing. Like, I don't have that, so maybe I need to do that to figure it out, and I'll be there. And then when you get there or not there, like, okay, what am I supposed to do next? And it's like you be in a wheel, in a cycle again. So
and when I hear you say that, I think back to fragmented, that you have a person who's drawing from all these places, trying to become a whole being. But in the process, they've lost who they really were. And so now, as sexuality would say, the identity has been skewed, because now they're only pulling from these other places and nothing else is original, because the rubric was off. So I walk us through that piece, Deborah. Tell us about it. I want to know more.
It took a lot. Because it's an internal struggle, because the freedom is not something that man can give me. It's something that's already there. And that's what Audre Lorde was saying. It's not something that's out there. It starts from within. And it permeates, right? Once it comes out, it permeates everything you do, whether it's cooking, writing, or doing. That's what Eros do. So for me to embody it, or just to be able to talk about it, Eros is liberation, right? So what does that look like if I cannot look within myself? So that's why I was like, into me and see me. I'm trying to see myself free, but I'm realizing my liberation comes with with chains that looks like bracelet, because I'm so used to them. I put them as they're part of my jewelry. Like, it's an accessory that I always have. So I'm thinking, like, I want to be free, but I have so many layers and chains. Layers from the community, layers from family, layers from people I didn't even solicit from, but I've taken on every layer, and myself has never been able to speak, or it just took it. And at one point, after many layers, you get tired. You become heavy. You're burdened down to the point you're like, look, I want to be free. Now the process is, how do I become free? Nobody provided the rubric. My mother never told me. She said, just be free, be you. What does that mean? And I feel like sometimes a lot of young girls don't have that agency, because someone took it from them. They don't know. And you said it best. It's as if you're taking what someone has given you, and that's it. Nobody has taught us to think for ourselves, but think along with others to make the decisions with others, so that way you're not the one
Socially acceptable.
So socially acceptable. So you suffer. And now you're at a point where I'm 33, where I'm tired. I just want to know, who am I? Who is this woman up under all these layers? What is her voice? What does she sound like? What does she look like? What is she aspiring to be? And if she is going to be in the church to be a pastor, what are the walls that she don't need to bring and what walls she do need to bring? Because not every wall is a bad wall.
Right.
So that's why part of my piece, it was that struggle of breaking things I don't need, but holding on to things I do need. But I realized in the end, I just needed to be free.
Yeah.
I still didn't know what that was, but I know that's what I need.
So what are you going to do with the bracelets?
What I'm frame them. I'm like, this is how I overcome. So I am free. No more bracelet, but it's always a reminder where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And that you once were bound.
Right.
And it's also a reminder for me to tell younger ladies or anyone, if I'm free, here's my proof, here's my evidence.
Yeah.
You too can be free.
Yeah. So what did it do for you, Deborah? Tell me. Just the live experience of hearing this, for the first time today.
Ooh, it
Right.
does a lot.
It's I find it interesting when you say rubric, because being in this academic setting, that we get upset when there's no rubric. Like, how are you grading me if you ain't telling me what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
And if you don't create your own rubric or create what
Yeah.
you need and what you want, then someone else will put those layers on you.
Wow.
And that's the work.
Yeah.
You really have to do the work to find what you need to thrive, to flourish in this space, because again, people will put it in on you. Like, we have labels, they don't even know you, and if you don't even know yourself or define the sexuality or identity of yourself, they create the rubric, and like, you're going to be a black woman that's fat or uneducated, and you can show them like, I'm all these things, but they already created their rubric for you. So that word rubric is huge, because you have to do the work for yourself to know this is what I need to keep going higher and looking and do what God is calling me to do.
Well, guys, I thank you so much. We're going to take a brief break, and if you all could look, we have the books for this course, The Embrace of Eros, Sexuality in the Black Church, God, Desire, and the Theology of Human Sexuality. These books have literally shaped and defined our love for this semester. So we're going to take a brief break. We're going to switch out hosts, and we'll be right back with you. This is the Eros Show. Thank you.
And welcome to the Eros Show. Now it's Brandeis Tillis as your host, and I am joined with Astria Wilson and Deborah Fortune. These are the characters, or my cohorts, in doing the play I Shall Be Liberated. And I just want to get the question of, how did you guys feel after doing this production for our midterm? Like, did it have to change your mind about Eros in the church and sexuality? Did it change your mind about the class? Like, how are you dealing with it now after it all said and done?
The fame. No, but honestly, taking on the persona of the Black church and understanding that that's one of the most hurt places for Black women, even though they outnumber everyone in the church. But it's the place where you're most ostracized. It's the place where you're the most silent. It is the place where you are the most put out. And so being the character that now I had a power in the play, because I'm given these two companions, which is Eros and Sexuality, and I am supposed to embrace them for my healing. And at that point, it was how, when I've been told so much that I can't accept Eros because this is the pornographic, I can't accept sexuality because that's against God, and I can't go through this journey with these two companions. So the reality of what was there, but it being displayed in front of the class, was really my reality. I remember the last church I left, the pastor said he wanted to have a conversation on gender roles in the church. When it was a woman leading the Bible study, because the women and men came together for a Bible study, and he did not silence or try to gather the room together when a woman was teaching, but he allowed for the men to move in chaos to keep her from being able to actually teach. And so having that in my mind and knowing that I was a part of a conversation where I saw a woman crying in the corner, and also not to mention, you know, well, I won't talk about the pastor's personal business, but he had a relationship with this woman. And to see her literally cry because she was not permitted to do the study that she felt she had received from God when he had instructed the meeting to come together as one anyway. So for me, it was all of these layers of not being enough as a woman. And then, you know, the concept of the white dress and how we're supposed to be pure and all of that, and having this colorless existence. It just really, really bothered me. And at the same time, to hear the dialogue between sexuality and Eros also gave me a liberty. And to understand that I'm a female preacher, I'm a female minister, you know, and God has called me to do this. And so accepting God's call over man's call is kind of what pushed me in that. Because I never knew, like, what would happen when I said, I want to be the black church. Well, I want to be church, because initially it was just church, but then taking on the concept of being the black church, like, I just knew I wanted to be that part, but the aggressiveness behind how the church is so elitist and how the church has become such a social club, and it's a social club for boys. And not women. You know, there is no, the hospital portion is now gone, and now it's a place of where you have the ability to sit in a place, but women have to come and labor in that place. And so that's what it was for me. It was being in that spot and just literally having my eyes open to, I can be okay being sexual. I can be okay with the fact that I get aroused and that I have desire. That became okay for me. And that was a place that I used to cry. And I was hurt because it was, how do you explain being in Christ, but yet you have a desire that is not for marriage? And so all of that stigma being just there, I felt like that breaking point, it was just lifted. So that was what it was for me. Yeah.
What about you, Nicole? Like, after doing I Shall Be Liberated, how did the class affected you after that production?
Well, I don't look at relationships the same. I don't even look at the church with such anger anymore. Because though a lot of things was done out of their own, out of tradition and ignorance for some part, for a lot of the parts, it's just, I'm at a place where I hurt for them, I grieve them. For all the many potential pastors, ministers, lay workers, a lot of them won't be there. And for those who had to leave the church because the church could not accept them, the many gifts that had to walk out. That would have been able to push the kingdom further. I then grieve and mourn. So the way I look at the black church or the church now, it's with pain, and I do pray to God for the church. As far as for a relationship, is how and I'm not the most affectionate person, which is funny. When I took the role Eros, I'm like, of all the roles, you had to pick Eros.
The most touching.
Oh, the most touching, indeed. Maybe there's that part of me I really want to touch. But I welcome it now. You know, the smile, the hugs, the kiss, even the words have a way of touching me in a way that I thought I could not be touched. It's something, you say something about yourself and you affirm it. but it's even more nice when someone else seconds that. Like when I look at myself, I'm like, man, I look so beautiful, and then he'll be like, oh yeah, you do, most definitely. Like, thank you. You know, I mean, I know, but thanks for second that. Okay, thank you. But words have a way of moving and permeating hurt places in my heart, and it starts to heal it out. I'm open. Dr. Kwok's class.
Yes.
I think between Asher and I was the worst.
I don't know.
We competed. We competed in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
What? Ruth and Naomi? What?
Yes.
Ephesus, Jesus being penetrated. This is the devil.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But then I had to learn that there is a message in these things. I think that's the problem when we look, and that was my problem. I'm seeing things for what they are, not taking the message that lies. And so what? They're different gender, and I could not grasp it because that's not what my Bible says. And exactly, my Bible says that they're going to hell.
Yeah.
My Bible says this is not right. My interpretation of my Bible became more oppressive. You know, I had to let that go in order for me to see the question that I had to ask myself: can God still move in places where I'm uncomfortable?
Wow.
And for me, the class, like Dr. Kwok said, stretch. If you don't like it, put it back. But you gotta try it on.
Yeah.
Trying it on shows me different ways I can worship God. And there was a moment where I had to understand you can worship God passionately, erotically, and it's not a sin because David danced till his clothes fell off.
Yeah.
Right? So, and there's the book of Songs of Solomon, okay?
Yeah.
Songs of Song, I mean, if it's not erotic, if it's not dripping Eros, I don't know what it is.
They put John on the Isle of Patmos because he wouldn't shut up talking about the man named Jesus.
Exactly. Eros in the
Yeah.
sense. So for me, I had to find Eros.
Wow.
And finding Eros and reading Eros enabled me to look at the world in a different place. I look at the world erotically now. That passion can touch life, the life force that's within me can touch and not taint but heal broken places. As you once said, fragmented, where we have to glean from.
Yeah.
My eroticness can heal.
Wow.
Now it can heal.
Yeah.
And what I learned from in the production as well, were like it all has to work together.
Yeah.
I mean, just for Eros, sexuality, and the church to come together, that's the ideal of what the church needs to be. Like, we can actually have conversation, and there was a combat in that, but at the end of the day, they all walk together in relationship. It made me think about the Trinity. Like, there's always the force and the argument. There's no Holy Spirit, whatever, but when they all come together, that's what the church is all about. And where 2 or 3 are gathered, there's God. So just in that production, at the end, to see us all hug, and it's displayed for those to see, they can really see what the church can really be. So that was an amazing thing to do. So it was a good segue about how the class was transforming you all. Where did you feel was the breaking point? Like either too much or you accepting that happened and take place in the class? Like, was it the readings? What was the beginning of the semester? At the end, like, where was the breaking point for you in the class?
We broke early. we broke, then we broke down, then we accepted. That, at least,
That's the actual that's the process right there.
Yeah, we did. And I'll speak directly for myself because Deborah already mentioned that Ruth piece, and it was like that day. I remember calling Deborah, and oh my God, and it was literally, I didn't know at that point we could say that we could not respond to the readings, so I just didn't respond. So Deborah called me and she said, no, Dr. Kwok said if I have an issue, I can put that I have an issue and I can't respond. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna add that I can't respond either because I can't respond. So I just remember sitting in class and being so uncomfortable with having to hear that Ruth and Naomi probably had a homosexual relationship. That was the most extreme, I think, for me. And that was because it took me to just this unthinkable place of how can you say that through the lineage of my Savior that now this homosexual relationship has taken place, and why out of all of a sudden this is now a possible issue or a potential thing that transpired. And then it was like, how are you reading that into the text? And so, and as Deborah said, my Bible has never alluded to any of that in Ruth, you know, that my people will be your people, and this, that meant that there was a drawing together and a connectedness of the souls. That had never been a thing for me. But then when Dr. Kwok came in and, you know, like she said, trying it on, and it was, and her not being aggressive and forceful and saying that we had to accept these readings, but her being in a place, in a posture of just for the sake of your formation, at least embrace the process. And I think that Eros, this class for me, started a process of breaking down all of that embedded stuff that has been a part of me for so long. And so I broke that day because it was like, I have no idea how to respond to this, because even when I talked to my mentor said, that's blasphemous. Like, and his response was, the person who wrote it is going to hell. Like, so when you are trying to digest what's already not even appeasing to you, and then to go get help, and the help says, well, the person who wrote this is going straight to hell. So now, and then at that same time, I was doing research about human trafficking, and one of the liberation theologians wrote that nobody wants to talk about the fact that conception happened between Mary and God in order for Jesus to be conceived. And so I'm going through all of these different theological concepts that I had never actually entertained. The fact that conception had to take place, and not thinking of it in a nasty way. Right. So you had, I think for all of us, we had different things that were going on while we were being broken, but not broken in a place of damage, but in a place of being open. Because I know for me personally, society in a concept of my own community, everything is shut off. If you don't look, sound, and act and behave within this structure, you're an outsider, you're ostracized, and you can't come in. And so that wall is what had to be broken down to allow something else to come in. And it's been a fight. It has been a fight. So I will say, for me, Ruth was my breaking point. But Dr. Kwok's words immediately after that was my acceptance to going through and allowing myself to embrace this process and enjoy the class and enjoy actually having my thoughts open. Because like Deborah said, I read the readings differently after that. I no longer read them as this is gay liberation theology, but I read them in a way of, what do I need to take from this because I'm so bound? What do I need to listen to? How do I need to process through this? Because even in who I am in my heterosexual nature, I'm still bound. So what do I need to do, and how do I glean from this what I need so that I can be a better minister, a better leader, just better as a whole person and a being, and not operate from brokenness?
My breaking point was the reading about Jesus being penetrated, orifices. I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I had to present with Ryan. Yeah. And I was like, even Ryan was like, we're not doing this. We're not, no. He was like, we're just not going to do this. And I was like, well, you just be the mouthpiece, and we'll see how we can correlate this. And I had to pray. I don't know if God spoke that day, but I just took it as, I could care less for the orifices part, but I did take the concept behind the spirit behind, how do I worship Jesus with every part of me? Yeah. How do I adore him? How do I love him? You know, we're saying, oh, I'm in love with Jesus. He's in love with me. How are they in love with Christ? And for certain people, well, the writer was like, I can't be in love with him just in words. I have to touch, you know. And in most worship services, have we touched Christ in our worship? How have we made love to Christ with our words? Have our praise, have our worship truly permeated the holes in his hand? Has it become that band-aid? Has it healed? Has it brought some relief in worship? Do we touch his orifices? Can we penetrate Christ in our worship? So for me, it just made me gun check myself. Like, you can't get mad at this person because it's what they say, but at least they're adoring Christ. How do you adore Christ? And it changed the way I worship. Now my worship has to be truly pure. It really has to come from somewhere. It can't just be the routine. Hey, everybody lift your hands, praise God. Right. I would get now, if the Lord wills it, I will take a mic and say a couple of hallelujahs, because my hallelujah, that's my touching. Yeah. That's my inside. Lord, I'm imploding in here, and this is how I do it with all the hallelujahs. Oh God, you're good. I'm reminiscing, my gratitude, my worship. So for me, my worship now has to be intense. Yeah. Because the sacrifice was more than intense. Yes. So that's where it's at for me.
Liz, you beautifully expressed how Eros is in your worship and everything. So for you two, how did your upbringing influence the way you identify the meaning of Eros and sexuality?
Okay, so for me, my sex talk with my mom was, Astria, you're going to want to have sex, and you're going to desire sex, and so do it, but don't get pregnant. My conversation was never, you can't have it. It was never avoided. It was literally, you're going to want it. So having that foundation of my mom telling me that I'm going to want sex, and then changing from that place to now, when I became a part of the church, that sex was so bad. And so now I've gone from, you have this desire, and one person has told you you're going to act on desire, and the church telling you you're not allowed to act on that desire. And so there is a conflict between my morale and my body. So my upbringing told me that sexuality, however I wanted to express, whatever I wanted to do was okay. I was never put in a box as a kid. And I remember I was a little stuck-up kid because my mom was super free. She would dance wherever she was. My mom was a person that she would compliment a three-legged dog and tell it was beautiful. And so to have someone who I thought was just passive, she was not passive, she was just free. Because I always thought that she was just too easygoing, or I feel like she just she wasn't aggressive enough for me. And so then I have the other part of me who was my father's child. And that's aggressive, it's forceful, it's all of this. So I have these two dynamics in me. And so I am not really embracing the beauty of what I've gotten from my mom, about her saying that you're going to want to do this and you're going to do that, but having that demeanor of my father now taking over, and now it's not okay. So you have one person saying be liberal, be liberated, and another one saying that, all of this is bad. And so, needless to say, my mom was right. You are going to desire. There is no way to avoid desire. There is no way to get around what your body organically does, because it's going to want to express and it's going to want to embrace. It's who you are. So my upbringing, I felt more free. I felt like I could do whatever, and I didn't feel restricted. But But then coming back to it, I felt restricted once I became a part of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Growing up, the word sex wasn't even in the house. So I had to learn it through school. When my friends would talk about it, I'm like, what? And then, when you don't know, you gotta play along, like, yeah, in your heart's like, what is that? What is that?
Yeah.
And I wasn't crazy enough to go ask Mama Rose, because I just know the minute I say that, something crazy's gonna go, and I didn't even try it. So my mom never talked about it. However, my father gave one advice. He said, if a boy touch your knees, you pregnant.
Mm.
And one day I was on the schoolyard and a young man brushed his hands against my knee. I fell into a state of depression because I had to tell my mother I am pregnant. I don't know what's going to happen. But as I got older, of course, knowing how babies are formed or what have you, it still wasn't spoken. And in the culture, when it's time to talk about sex, is pleasing the man. Making sure if he taps your shoulder, you just roll over and satisfy him. And for me, I was like, so I don't get pleased in the process, So it was just stifling. So the idea of sex wasn't the most encouraging thing or the most engaging thing growing up, because it was just felt like a chore.
Yeah.
Like when you get married, this is what you have to do to keep them. I'm like, that's all. That's all I gotta do. But of course, when you go off to college, you have your own lessons. You learn your own, you do your own thing, and you realize sex is more.
Yeah.
I wish growing up someone would have said sex is empowering.
Yeah.
Sex is liberating. And sex is a beautiful thing that can be shared with two people who truly love each other.
Yeah.
And I never got that growing up, And now, what I can do with that is, when I have children, tell them, your mom did a great job telling you at a young age. We just had to have life lessons to learn what it was. But I can tell my daughter, it's empowering and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But don't share it, because people say, well, I gave him something or she gave me something. No, it's not nothing you give; it's something you share.
Yeah.
And everybody's not worthy or have done not everybody's worthy of that sharing space.
Yes.
And be wise about how you share this space with whomever, because that's you. That's you. They're entering you and you entering them.
Yeah.
And every place is worth entering in.
Yeah.
If my mom or the church rather would have said that, I think we women might have been a little bit more
Resistant.
and ready to I can't share my space with everybody.
Right.
And the time will come, I think if they made it seem so beautiful as opposed to don't do it because it's only for marriage. Don't do it or you go to hell. You're fornicating. What's so bad about it?
Everything attached to it was negative.
Right.
It was a complete negative connotation, and so now you have this place where you are trying to explore sex, and then also you're young and doing it with young people who have no idea about satisfaction, and so, but you're exploring because everything has been closed off about it of don't go into this space, and you have older cousins and older people who you hang with who are experiencing it, because that was for me how I lost my virginity. My cousin told me, you're going to do it one day, so you might as well do it today. It was, and that was it was it's hurtful now, and it was hurtful then, because there was no concept of the cherishing aspect of it, or you being worth. It was, this completely far off idea of, you're going to do it one day anyway. Why not today? And so, being 12 going on 13, and being in that place, and that's I am doing something that I'm not even designed to even do at this point. And so, the conversation, if the conversation was like that, then it would have been a necessary thing to cherish a little while longer. Yeah.
And I think with the whole upbringing influence, all of us were brought brought up, people don't even know what Eros and sexuality. They think it's just sex and intercourse. Like my upbringing was, if you get pregnant, I kill you. So it's like there was no birds and the bees. There was like your body, what it is and what it's supposed to do. It was just like whatever they was taught, they put it on us, and then they live our lives through their lives through us. Because like, well, I didn't have a chance to be pure or share my stuff, so make sure my child don't do that. And it still wasn't what we needed to learn to empower ourselves and to self-identify ourselves as worth or as worthy. The next question for both of you is, how has the church restricted or liberated you in expressing your identity in the erotic and sexuality?
The church is definitely not liberated at all. Like I said, for me, I felt more restricted. Becoming connected to the church put me in a place of where now I have to live by this standard that the church says. And even though not everybody's living by it, but because you take on leadership, now your life is more scrutinized. And so I remember I was different things that went on, not even sexually related, but that other people had more liberty in the church than I did. And it was always, well, God has more for you, or God is going to do something different, and you can't do what everybody else is doing. And I even thinking about sex, like, you know, the concept of actual intercourse, I remember telling God, I was like, God, how is it that people have no regret and they can have sex without remorse, but yet I literally cringe, or I have to force myself to relax when I'm doing it in this space. And now, don't get me wrong, I've been celibate for 7 years, but at the same time of when I was sexually active, it was always uncomfortable. And I do believe that the church would tell you should be uncomfortable because you're not supposed to have it in that context. And so I'm reminded of one of the readings that we had that said that it is an act of service, like Deborah said, to each other, but it's an act of caring. And that there should be a care that's included when you go through this act. And so, and it was like it shouldn't just be desire. And so I feel like the church, because of all of the stigmatization around sex, that the church has now put everyone in a box, and everybody who's, even though, like, you know, everybody's doors, but when you come forth pregnant, you're now an issue. When you come forth and they can actually visibly see whatever you choose to identify with sexually, whether it be heterosexual, homosexual, however that plays out, the church now then expresses its issue, and they say God has an issue with you. Well, why God didn't tell me by God's self? Why is God sending you when God was talking to me the whole time? And so that's the place that I think that the church has literally handcuffed the believer. Is that, and I hate to feel that way, but the word I hear is control. The church has taken on control, but if the church would read the Bible says that any spirit of control is witchcraft. So what are we operating in the church? If we're only seeking to control, but not actually to educate, liberate, and make whole.
Well, thank you, ladies, for your wonderful conversation. We're about to do a commercial break, and we'll be bringing in our next host. So thank you for coming to Euro Show.
Hi, welcome back to the Eros Show, and we are speaking with the lovely cast from I Shall Be Liberated, Miss Brandeis, and as well as Miss Ashford. Let's welcome them here. It's so good to have you ladies here. And this whole experience, I was hearing great reviews about you all, and I myself was pleased. Very, very, very pleased. Brandeis, I have a question to ask you. Some of the students and some of the people that I've known have been telling me to please ask you this. They said, how do you see Eros and sexuality impacting the work you plan to do after camp?
Wow. After Candler, that's a dream. Seems like if I can see the light end of the tunnel. This class And knowing what those two mean to me is giving me the confidence to make sure I teach others, and giving them the space to explore that and have conversation. I think we just been in a society that is too afraid to talk about those things in a healthy way. Media is showing it in a bad way. This things, movies, cartoons, just everything is showing it in a bad way, but we need to have healthy discussions in safe spaces, because there's people who's been wounded with those two, and people don't even know about what Eros is. All they think is Cupid. So to give them, to establish spaces for creative dialogue, safe dialogue, and something for results. It's not just about talking about it, but give them some results to be creative, to do, and to explore what we talked about as well. So that's the work I would like to do after
Awesome. I pray you really get the chance and opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
One more question also for you. What would your current self instruct the younger you about Eros, sexuality, and the church? Ooh, now that's good.
What would my younger self say? Well, when I said my younger self, I would tell my younger self to be. Just be who God created her to be. She don't have to do anything to validate or to search for love. If she just fully be herself, she can learn who she is, accept who she is, and love who she is. And she don't have to search with anyone else. I think that's the biggest thing I wish I'd learned when I was younger. If I had to learn that my curves are okay, that it's accepted for myself, I wouldn't have to search for anything else or have to perform for someone to validate me and in my worthiness or my being. Like, if I learned that for myself, and if I had some people to tell me that, I think I'm a great person now. I think I'd be a much better person and further along in life if I knew that.
Thank you for sharing. That is very true. I think a lot of people do not say that. What about you, Ashley? What would your younger self, what would your older self instruct your younger self about Eros, sexuality?
So the first thing I would tell my younger self is, going back to what I said about my mom, is that Mama didn't lie. Mama told the truth. Mama was spot on when she said that I would have desire, and I would tell my younger self it is okay to desire, and it is okay to experience that desire acted out. You know, that your body will transform, but everything about you is okay. That you don't have to endure those emotions in the closet. Because I know that, like, my adult self now, when it's trying to actually express it and actually say how I'm feeling, and I just know, like, even in being in this class, I literally got to the point this semester where I called one of my female mentors and I told her, I don't even want to be celibate anymore. I just told her I don't even care. And that was, I had not experienced a not caring before, where I literally wanted to give up something that I had called sacred. And so to be an adult and going through that, and it's my first time, I would just tell my younger self, don't live by the standard that you feel you're supposed to live by. Live by the standard that you believe because of who you are and not what somebody else is doing.
That's well said. I can agree more with both of you. The next question, and this is for you, Ms. Astrid. What roots do you feel were removed by navigating through the production and the readings from Eros and Sexuality?
Oh, God. I gotta sit up on this one. The roots, I think, you don't realize just how much that you have embedded inside of you. The things that have been hidden away that you carry, but they shape the way you think, they shape the way you move. Just like I said, I never thought that I would get to a place where I can openly tell somebody who I know is older, a mentor, a mother figure, highly involved in the church, that I don't care about being celibate. And then at the same time, like, I felt bad because I'm like, how do you as a minister tell someone that when your belief is that you should be celibate or abstinent into marriage. And so having that confliction within my own self, and also coming to a place of saying, well, where are you going to teach? Because you have to be accountable for the information you give out. And so I think that the class exposed the need for me to wrestle in that place about what do I really believe about this, but also the root of that this is not porn. This is not this nasty, outward, grotesque experience, but it is literally a love expressed, a love embraced, and that to me was what I felt like was rooted up, and that was what transformed me in the readings and in the process of going through I Shall Be Liberated.
Awesome. Do you all have any last words or inspiration that you can give to the church, to our audience about Eros, sexuality, the church, like a 2-second, 3-second word what is that word?
My word to the church is go back and read again. Go read again. Read again and read closely. Read slowly, and remove the harmonics. That's good. That is what I would tell the church.
I would tell the church, open up. Even be spiritually naked again, because they need that. They need to get engaged in all their senses to really touch the world.
I would say to the church, come out from amongst them and be separated.
Yeah.
Separated to be loved, separated to be touched, separated to really experience the power of God in Eros. You have to come out. Well, I thank everyone for joining us this morning and having our beautiful ladies. They will be heading to the Oscars, and we're so proud of them. We couldn't have asked for a better representation, and we are so proud of your work. We hope that you do win this Oscar for us. Outside, one rejoice, all rejoice.
Yes.
And you can look at the products that they use. And in the end, we will have a special performance closing us out with none other than Miss Astria and her beautiful dance. You all, let's give it up.
Woo! Come on. Let me see you, Houston. Clap those hands like you meant it tonight. Are you ready, Houston? Come on. In the morning when I wake up, and I will sing my praise unto you, my Lord. And I will shout, I will dance to you, for you have been my help from now to never. Let me hear you scream. Hey, my God is good. Oh. My God is good. Oh. Hey, let me hear you scream. Hey, my God is good. Oh. My God is good. Oh. Hey, my God is good. Oh. Everything I double, this way. Promotion double. Your breakthrough double. Hey! Anointing double. Come on. Say, hey, my God is good. My God is good. Hey, my God is good. Somebody scream.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Eros, Sexuality, and most importantly, the Eros Show. It has been amazing having you all